Imagine a world where every dollar donated or funded by taxpayers is used with integrity and purpose. But what happens when organizations like USAID, tasked with advancing global developments, face allegations of mismanagement and corruption? The recent discoveries we've made raise some serious questions, and today we're diving deep into USAID to find out whether it's a true force for good or just another tool of manipulation. As more and more information comes to light about USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, serious questions arise about its true purpose. This powerful and controversial organization has been making waves in the global aid scene for decades. With great power comes great scrutiny, and many have begun to question the legitimacy of USAID's operations. Is it truly dedicated to helping those in need, or is it just a front for more sinister activities? Today, we'll separate facts from fiction. As someone who values transparency and accountability, I believe it's crucial to examine how organizations like USAID use public funds. After all, these funds come from taxpayers who expect them to be used for the greater good, not exploited for personal or political gain. USAID was established in 1961 by President John F. Kennedy to consolidate various U.S. foreign aid programs into a single agency. At the time, the Cold War was in full swing, and USAID was designed as a tool to counter Soviet influence by promoting economic developments in strategically important nations. The idea was to strengthen alliances by providing economic stability and infrastructure, which in return would prevent these nations from falling under communist control. In its early years, USAID played a very important role in shaping modern international aid. One of its first major successes was the Green Revolution, a series of agricultural initiatives that dramatically increased food production in developing countries. By funding research and the distribution of high-yield crop varieties, USAID helped combat hunger to boost agricultural economies in countries like India and Mexico. Another major milestone was USAID's involvement in the eradication of smallpox. Through extensive vaccination campaigns and partnerships with global health organizations, the agency contributed to one of the greatest public health victories of the 20th century. Additionally, USAID funded significant infrastructure projects, including road networks, schools, and hospitals, which laid the foundation for economic growth in many developing nations. USAID's mission expanded to include health programs, education initiatives, disaster relief, and humanitarian aid. These efforts have saved countless lives, providing immediate assistance in crises such as the Ethiopian famine of the 1980s and the Haiti earthquake in 2010. On the surface, this goal seems noble, but history has shown that things aren't always what they appear to be. USAID claims to help millions of people through economic assistance, emergency aid, and sustainable development projects. According to the agency's own reports, in 2020 alone, it provided over $27 billion in aid to various countries. However, one of the biggest questions is, who really benefits? While some communities have seen positive results, many critics argue that USAID's aid contribution is more about advancing U.S. foreign policy than actually helping those in need. A 2019 investigation by ProPublica found that only about 30% of USAID's funds went directly to local organizations, while the majority was funneled through U.S.-based contractors. One major concern is USAID's over-reliance on private contractors. Rather than directly delivering aid, the agency often hands out multi-million-dollar contracts to corporations, many of which prioritize profits over people. For example, in Afghanistan, reports indicate that over $17 billion was spent on failed infrastructure projects with little to show for its on the ground. To get a real sense of U.S. aid's impact, some interviewers spoke to aid recipients and former workers from around the world. In Kenya, community leader Amina Yusuf expressed gratitude for the agency's healthcare programs, particularly in maternal health. However, she also noted that bureaucracy and mismanagement often delayed crucial resources. Meanwhile, in Haiti, local activist Jean-Pierre Durand criticized U.S. aid's housing reconstruction efforts, arguing that much of the funding was wasted on administrative costs rather than direct relief for earthquake survivors. This had led to widespread allegations of corruption, cronyism, and wasted resources. Reports from watchdog organizations like the Government's Accountability Office, GAO, and Transparency International have repeatedly flagged U.S. aid's opaque operations rather than fueling skepticism about its effectiveness and true intentions. Scandals are not uncommon when it comes to large organizations handling billions of dollars, and U.S. aid is no exception. While the agency was created with a mission to foster global development, there have been moments in history when its actions raised more questions than answers. Let's take a look at some of the most controversial moments that have put U.S. aid under scrutiny. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the social media platform you've been using to connect with friends was actually created by a foreign government to secretly influence public opinion. This was a reality for many Cuban citizens when it was revealed that U.S. aid had carefully developed Zunio, a Twitter-like platform intended to influence young Cubans and incite political unrest. The platform, which started off as an innocent communication tool, was later exposed as an attempt to undermine the Cuban government. When the story broke, the backlash was immediate, raising concerns about how U.S. aid was operating in countries without transparency or consent. In Bolivia, U.S. aid was accused of going beyond humanitarian aid and engaging in direct political interference. The Bolivian government, under President Evo Morales, claimed that U.S. aid was channeling funds to opposition groups, attempting to weaken the administration and stir unrest. As tensions grew, Bolivia made a bold decision in 2013 to expel U.S. aid from the country. The incident left a lasting impact, fueling the arguments that U.S. aid's operations often serve geopolitical interests rather than the genuine development of nations. One of the darkest chapters in U.S. aid's history comes from Peru, where thousands of indigenous women were forcibly sterilized under government's program allegedly funded in part of U.S. aid. Under the presidency of Alberto Fujimori, the government justified the program was a population control measure, but investigations later revealed that many women were coerced, misled, or had procedures done without their consent. Survivors of the program have spent years seeking justice, and U.S. aid involvement in funding such controversial policies has never been fully addressed. These are not just events from the past. U.S. aid continues to face scrutiny today. In recent years, the agency has come under fire for funding organizations with alleged ties to extremist groups. A particularly concerning case involved U.S. aid approving 110,000 grants to a nonprofit that was later flagged for its connection to terrorist organizations. This revelation has led to pressing concerns about how U.S. aid screens its beneficiary. If such an oversight happened once, how many similar cases have slipped under the radar? Transparency remains a significant issue. Watchdog organizations like the Government Accountability Office (GAO) have repeatedly highlighted the difficulties in tracking USAID's financial activities. Despite managing billions of dollars in aid, the agency has been criticized for its lack of clear documentation for its reluctance to disclose financial records. This opacity fuels skepticism about whether the allocated funds are truly being used for humanitarian purposes or are instead serving undisclosed political agendas. Adding to the controversy, USAID had also been accused for overstepping its mandate by engaging in political interference under the guise of humanitarian work. In multiple instances, funds have been directly toward groups or initiatives that align with specific foreign policy interests rather than addressing humanitarian crises. Critics argue that this behavior undermines the agency's credibility and raises ethical concerns about whether aid is being used as a tool for political maneuvering rather than genuine relief efforts. Despite the controversies, it would be unfair to overlook the significant contributions USAID had made across the globe. The agency has been responsible for life-saving initiatives that have transformed the health, education, and economic conditions of millions. Let's look at some of its most impactful projects. One of USAID's greatest achievements has been its role in the global efforts to eradicate polio. In the mid-20th century, polio was a devastating disease, leaving thousands of children paralyzed each year. USAID worked closely with the World Health Organization, WHO, and UNICEF, funding vaccination campaigns that eventually led to near eradication of polio in many parts of the world. Countries like India, which once had tens of thousands of polio cases annually, have been declared polio-free thanks to these efforts. When the deadly Ebola outbreak hits West Africa, panic spread fast. With no cure available and weak healthcare infrastructure, the situation seems hopeless. USAID stepped in, providing immediate funding for treatment centers, emergency medical teams, and public awareness campaigns. By partnering with local governments and medical professionals, they helped contain the outbreak and prevent its spread to other regions. While Ebola remains a threat, the quick response during that crisis undoubtedly saved thousands of lives. Water scarcity is a problem affecting over 2 billion people worldwide. USAID has invested in large-scale clean water initiatives across Africa and South Asia, constructing water wells, improving sanitation infrastructure, and teaching communities sustainable water management practices. In countries like Ethiopia and Bangladesh, access to clean drinking water has drastically improved due to USAID-funded projects, reducing waterborne illnesses and improving overall health conditions. Access to education can change lives, but in many developing countries, girls face significant barriers to schooling. USAID has played a pivotal role in providing funding for girls' education programs, building schools, and training teachers in underprivileged areas. Programs like Let Girls Learn, launched in collaboration with the U.S. government, have helped millions of young girls gain access to quality education, breaking cycles of poverty and increasing opportunities for women in workforce. Food security is another major focus of USAID. Through programs that promote sustainable farming techniques, USAID has helped improve agricultural yields in countries struggling with food shortages. By introducing drought-resistant crops and better irrigation systems, farmers in regions like Saharan Africa have been able to increase their food production, ensuring a more stable and self-sufficient future. While USAID has undoubtedly had successes, it has also been involved in projects that have raised eyebrows. Not every initiative funded by the agency has been necessary or effective. One of the most criticized aspects of USAID's work has been its funding of media projects that serve to promote certain political ideologies rather than provide humanitarian relief. In several cases, USAID has been linked to financing news outlets and journalists in foreign countries with the intention of spreading pro-Western narratives. This raises concerns about whether USAID is genuinely investing in global development, or if it's simply a tool for soft power influence. After years of conflicts in Afghanistan, USAID pledged billions of dollars to rebuild the country. However, reports from the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, SIGAR, show that much of the funding was wasted on incomplete or inefficient projects. Schools were built but never used. Roads were paved but quickly fell into disrepair, and corruption drained significant portions of the aid. Instead of truly rebuilding Afghanistan, many critics argue that the effort turned into a financial black hole. USAID's food aid programs, while seemingly beneficial, have also been accused of prioritizing American agribusiness over actual humanitarian needs. Instead of buying food locally to support struggling economies, USAID ships food from the US, often at inflated cost, which critics say benefits American corporations rather than the people in need. Some have even argued that this method of food aid undercuts local farmers, making countries more dependent on foreign assistance rather than self-sufficient. These cases force us to reconsider. When an institution becomes too large and too influenced by political and economic interest, can it still stay true to its original purpose? USAID's resources were supposed to be used to improve global development, but in the absence of transparency and oversight, has it truly made the intended impact? These concerns are not just about USAID, but extend to all organizations handling public funds and humanitarian aid. As the public, we have the responsibility to scrutinize these programs, demand a higher transparency, stricter oversight, and a fairer distribution of aid. Assistance should return to its fundamental purpose, helping those who truly need it, not becoming a tool controlled by a select few. This discussion is far from over, and it is our duty to remain vigilant, ensuring that these resources are used properly to create meaningful change. I believe that periodic checks and balances, as designed in the U.S. Constitution, are essential to prevent the governments from becoming too powerful. This is not only crucial for ensuring the proper use of public funds, but also the preventing political and economic interest from infiltrating aid programs. Only through continuous oversight and scrutiny can we ensure that these organizations truly fulfill their missions, rather than becoming tools for a select group of powerful individuals. At the end of the day, USAID is neither purely a scam nor entirely benevolence. It has undoubtedly made a difference in the world, but its operations also raise serious concerns about transparency, effectiveness, and ulterior motives. The real question is who is truly benefiting? While the organization was founded with good intentions, what it has become and the forces behind it are what we need to scrutinize. I believe there are good people within USAID who genuinely want to help, but we also can't ignore the evidence of corruptions, political maneuvering, and self-serving interests hidden beneath the surface. If our world had no collusion, bribery, or exploitation, wouldn't it be a much better place? But we could donate freely without hesitation, knowing every dollar would serve a true purpose. But reality isn't so simple. Governments, agencies, and nonprofits receive funding from taxpayers, so every cent should be carefully accounted for. Corruption and waste not only drain valuable resources but also destroy public trust in organizations that do genuinely important work. That's why transparency and accountability matter. And let's be real, whether in the US or other countries around the world, there will always be people who take advantage of the system designed to help. Some abuse welfare programs simply because they can. Some organizations mislocate funds to serve political or corporate interest. It's an unfortunate reality. This isn't about eliminating aid. This isn't about eliminating aid. It's about making sure aid goes where it's truly needed. We need to keep demanding transparency, keep questioning where the money flows, and hold those in power accountable. If you agree, keep following for more investigative content. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue uncovering the truth together and see you in the next video.